day. What a wonderful way to end the home schedule. Well, Bears have now officially won more games this season than the last 2 years. It's their best record in 3 years, regardless if they win or lose next week. Bears win 37-17 on a snowy day in Chicago against the Atlanta Falcons. And this one feels great. You already know who I'm about to talk about. It's Justin Fields playing his final game at Soldier Field, and he put on a show for the fans in attendance in the stadium right by the lake. Justin Fields was effective, but he wouldn't have been effective today if it weren't for who we traded the number 1 overall pick for. DJ Moore has been impressing this team in this city all season long, and he continues to do so. He had himself a monster day. That's right, 9 receptions, 159 yards, and a touchdown to boot. DJ Moore was running circles around the Atlanta secondary, and he made them pay in several ways. His touchdown catch was the best touchdown of the day. Justin Fields on 3rd and goal looking in the end zone, and he puts a perfect pass right into the hands of DJ Moore, who was covered very well by Jesse Bates. Doesn't matter. Fields throws a perfect ball, and it's a perfect toe tap catch for DJ Moore in the end zone. And that was the opening drive for Chicago. They didn't slow down. They scored a touchdown on their next drive before putting up 10 more points, only 7 more points before the end of the first half. Trust me, I saw it. They scored that 3rd touchdown with Roschon Johnson, and I knew it. Yeah, that was it. That was our scoring for the day. That was all we were going to get. I was convinced. That was all that we were permitted to score with Luke Getsy's scheme. We were permitted to score 3 touchdowns, and it very well looked like that for the majority of the second half. Bears went into the second half with the football as the Falcons won the toss and elected to receive in this one. Their opening drive ended with a Younghoe Koo botched 50-yard field goal. He also doinked a second field goal in the first half. Those 6 points really came back to haunt the Falcons in the long run because they were out of it for a while. Chicago had several 3-possession leads. Falcons did everything they could to try and make it a game, but it just wasn't enough. And they made it close a little bit. Taylor Heinicke had a 24-yard touchdown run. I mean, it got me a little nervous there. The other touchdown Atlanta would score was a 75-yard touchdown catch and run from Tyler Algier. But, I mean, Taylor Heinicke running that in had me a little nervous because of what this team has done with big fourth-quarter leads this season. They've blown 3 double-digit fourth-quarter leads. Can't continue to do that. So, they don't this time around. And it got a little sketchy there. They put up another field goal. They got it to 30 points. They still were only up 13, but they were swallowing the Atlanta offense all day long. And Khalil Herbert was able to break off a big run and then finish it with a 1-yard touchdown run to put the Bears back up 3 possessions, which the Falcons would not bring any closer. A 20-point win. And Khalil Herbert had a great game, another 100-plus yard rushing day, and he added another touchdown at the end of the game. Really like what I saw from Khalil Herbert. He's finally getting going. Unfortunately, it is the last 3 games of the season, but to me, this shows that he still can run the football, and I think he could still be the starter next year. But Roschon Johnson and Deontay Foreman were carrying the rock so well after he got hurt, and he struggled to get back in the swing of things, but he's really had his best games of the year. He saved his best for last here, and I really hope he can have a great game next week against the Packers. Which kind of brings me to my next point, the playoffs. I didn't think it was going to happen, but they still had a good chance. Actually, a good chance. They had a slim chance to get in, but they needed a couple things to go right. They needed the Rams to lose out, the Seahawks to lose out, and the Saints to lose out. Rams and Saints both won today. Still waiting on the result between the Steelers-Seahawks game. See if the Seahawks do find a way to lose that one. But I don't think the Bears will be making it with the Rams and Saints victories. Doesn't really matter who wins between the Vikings and the Packers tonight, but regardless, it's tough. It's a tough break, and well, aw shucks, they didn't make it. Did we expect them to make it? Actually, a lot of people did. For some weird reason, a lot of people really expected this team to win 10 games this year. We got one big piece. We got a couple of big pieces, but like there were still some flaws on the team. They were coming off a 10-game losing streak to end the year last year. They were a trendy pick to make the playoffs in terms of like betting and whatnot. But there was no way. I did not see it. I thought it was going to be 8 wins, 7, 8 wins. And well, they're at 7 to 8 wins this season, so they've kind of met my expectations. They did not the first half of the season, but since Fields has come back from injury, they have looked so much better. And frankly, if they don't blow those leads to Detroit and Cleveland, they should be undefeated since Justin Fields' return. They should be. They should be. But they are not. And that's unfortunate. They have 2 losses since Fields has come back. But he has looked so much better since he's come back from the injury. And of course, Bagent holding down the fort, winning 2 games. This team, they were down for the count. They did not. They had a horrible start. They started 0-4. And right now, they're 7-5 since the 0-4 start. This is a team, I don't know if you want to break up this core a ton, thinking about the future of the offseason, which throughout the week, we did see that there were rumors that Ryan Poles is going to keep Matt Eberflus as the head coach. And this is an interesting development. Because as most of you know, if you've been following throughout this season, I was not a fan of Matt Eberflus. I thought he was a hack, and he was a complete choker for the first 10 weeks of the season. But after they lost to Detroit, they get the win against the Vikings, and then they beat Detroit again. And with the defense having this revitalized vigor, with this renewed vigor on their team, they've looked so much better since they finally were able to get a win against the Commanders. They've looked really good this season. And with Eberflus calling the plays, I think his biggest problem just needs to find a way to stop blowing games. He needs to find a way to finish games. And whether that is the main fault of the offense just not, finishing and bridging the gap, or the defense folding. There are a couple things that he needs to work on, but I have grown more and more accepting of the fact that he can stay our head coach, and I'm not super upset about it. Yes, I know his record with this win now is now 10-23, but again, they went 3-14 last season. They are 7-9 right now. It's one of the better seasons in the past decade for this team, which is sad. You take away the couple of Matt Nagy years where they went 8-8. You take away the 12-4 year. They don't win. They haven't really won more than 6 games. So they haven't looked completely awful this year. I wouldn't say they're a terrible team. Would I say that they're a good team? I might say so. With how they're playing right now, yeah, I'd say that they're a good team. They had a terrible start to the year. I remember what happened to the Lions last year. They had a horrible start. They overcame it, had a fantastic finish to the next, at the end of last year to go into this year. And look what they've done. They have won the NFC North Division for the first time in 3 decades. So, I mean, the Bears could be this team next season, but that all depends on whether or not they decide to roll with Justin Fields and try to keep this rebuild going and commit to this rebuild and see if they can make a push for the playoffs next year. So, well, it stinks that they don't make the playoffs this year. I mean, you gotta win out, right? It's not like next week's against Detroit or even Minnesota. It's against the Green Bay Packers. And they're in Lambeau. It's a big game. Doesn't matter how good or bad these two teams are. They hate each other. And they will do anything to beat each other in the regular season. Maybe play spoiler a little bit. depending on if the Packers win tonight in Minnesota. But that's what it's coming down to. The Bears have a chance to play spoiler against the Packers in Lambeau, just like the Lions did last season. The aggression has to be at a 10. I'm not saying Dan Campbell aggression, as we saw this week from the Lions. I mean, if you know, you know. But we need to get into the mind of someone like Matt LaFleur, who ups the aggression during divisional games. I mean, that's at least to me what it feels like. If any Packer fans are watching this, and I know there definitely are, let me know, is Matt LaFleur really that much more aggressive against divisional opponents? Because it sure as hell feels like it. And that's what the Bears need to do. They need to up the aggression, take more chances. You need to take a couple of risks. Of course, when applicable, don't be going for every 4th and 5 and short, knowing when to take the points, because that is one thing that overall in the league I have been frustrated with. So many coaches just going for it on 4th downs in the red zone and on these big plays to try and beat their opponent instead of just tie the game, or they're more focused on winning now instead of getting the points, maybe bridging it a little closer, keeping the game in flux. Like, there was a chance that they were going to go for it on 4th down in this one when they were up 14, and they didn't. They tried to draw them off sides, but you just got to take the points. You go up 3 scores. So be smart about when you go and don't go for it, but be aggressive, because the Packers are going to be aggressive towards you. I think this game is going to be a huge telling on what happens to some of these players next season. Or more of the off-season, rather. But Justin Fields is playing for his job in this one, and he delivered. He's going to have to deliver again next week against Green Bay. If Justin Fields can go into Lambeau Field and pick up a victory, the rep in the organization, the feeling fans of this team are going to have about him, people who are on the fence, the entire opinion of him is going to change. Because the Bears have not beaten the Packers since 2018 with Mitch Trubisky. They have not won in Lambeau Field since 2015 when Jay Cutler was quarterback for the Chicago Bears, and they spoiled Brett Favre's retirement ceremony. One of the greatest games I've ever watched in my entire life, by the way. Oh my gosh, I was a happy camper. That was 8 years ago. They've lost 7 straight in Lambeau Field. Can't afford to go to 8 because the jobs are on the line next week. This team is going to give it their all, but I think there has been some great improvement, especially on the defensive end this season overall. Of course, DJ Moore's been fantastic. Fields has improved as a passer, though maybe some people say his stats aren't on par for a top 15 quarterback, even top 10 quarterback, but he's gotten better, and to me, that's what I want to see. He's looked really good in the last handful of weeks. Outside, you take away the Detroit game and the Cleveland game they blew, he's looked fantastic. I think Fields needs to learn how to play from behind a little bit, because however these games have gone in recent years, he's going to have to play from behind in this one. So I want to see Justin Fields get some good passes through the air again, just like he did this week. I want to see Khalil Herbert get some good carries. Johnson had a good game. I really want to see the offense able to have a similar offensive day that they had today, but without them stalling in the third quarter and keeping Atlanta in it for a long time. I want to see them find a way to put away the Packers, and if they get a big lead, to put them away and keep the aggression on, keep the foot on the gas pedal, because that is something they've struggled with this year, which is what has led to those 3 blown leads. Of course, it's different when you're playing the Packers. So, it's been a season-long wait. Both of these teams opened the season against each other. It's been a rat race the 16 weeks since time to conclude the season against each other to see who ends up winning and seeing if the Bears can play spoiler, or will the Packers get another win against the Bears and head to the playoffs. Of course, that all depends on The stakes, of course, depend on what happens tonight in Minnesota. Could be for a playoff berth for Green Bay. They could, if they win, they could be in a very good position to get in. So we'll have to see what happens tonight, but the stakes are going to be high in Green Bay. This is my 4th year doing Bears reactions. The Bears are 0-7 against the Packers. They are some of my most viewed videos because I have lost my mind in a couple of them. I have toned it down significantly over the past couple of years because my outlook on sports as a whole has changed, and the way that I approach it has totally changed. I would love for nothing more than the Bears to end this season with a win against Green Bay. It would be the best feeling I'd have at the end of the season in a long time. Because they go out and win. Yeah, they don't make the playoffs, but they are set up for next year. And I go back to when I started following the team. They've made the playoffs twice. The Bears in 2018 had that, of course, the double doink, absolutely crushing. And while I felt like I was satisfied at the time, you look back on it, and it really set this franchise back years. And then they finish 8-8, not really satisfied. Finish 8-8 again, make the playoffs as the 7th seed. Get expectedly blown out. You don't really get satisfied. And of course, 6-11 and then 3-14. If they win this game in Green Bay, this is probably the most satisfying end to a season in a long time. Maybe ever for me, considering I've only been following this team for about a decade. The first sports memory I ever had was Week 17, 2013, when Aaron Rodgers broke our hearts to win the division. Yeah, that game. So I have seen so many losses to the Green Bay Packers. I think I maybe have seen 2 wins against Green Bay in my lifetime. The win against the Packers in Lambeau on Thanksgiving, and the Bears winning in 2018 at home to knock the Packers out of the playoffs and win the division with Mitch Trubisky. That's it. But that's all to be determined in a week's time. Still don't know what time the game's going to be, but because of the stakes, I'd assume it's probably going to be a later start, and it's Bears-Packers. I'd assume it's probably going to be in that 4:25 slot, 3:25 Central Time. I'd assume that's probably where it's going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the typical 1 p.m. slot. I don't think it's going to get the Sunday Night Football bid. Maybe it gets Saturday. Depending on how things play out tonight in Minnesota. But I think Sunday Night Football is going to be Dolphins-Bills. I think that's probably going to be it because it's going to be a battle for that division title, and they're both really good. That'll be the Sunday night game. But, man, they have done a great job here at the tail end of the year to win these football games and really save the season and kind of give this city hope that there can be some winning in this city. Now, all we can do is hope they win next week and then use that momentum to propel them through the offseason, make some good moves. And, of course, we then get to September where they do it all over again, whether that's with Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, or some other quarterback that gets drafted. So, if this truly is the end of the Justin Fields era, I'm going to cherish this one, win or lose, because he has delivered some of the most entertaining football I have seen while being a Bears fan. Glad you all could be here on the ride with me. That is it for this one. If you liked it, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for more reactions from me. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care. Oh, and Happy New Year.